On the one hand, I'm really happy about the last episode. On the other, I'm terrified. What is this game about to do to me? If it's being this nice to me early on. Hello, Legion, this is Hadrian. Thank you for being here. Let's play some more Stellaris Federations in our Final Federation 2 series. So I want to take a moment as I begin this episode to explain a little bit more about my excitement in the previous episode. Terra Nova is 10 days from finishing. So we're going to have 4 colonies up and running, and we are about to have enough food to use another planetary growth decision on our brand new colony. So that's great news. But what was it? Apart from what I said last episode about the ruined matter decompressor and the enigmatic fortress that is so exciting. Well, first of all, yes, they're close by, and I have them in an area that is already, it's looking like relatively well locked off, or will be well locked off, especially if we can control this entire cluster and these linking stars. So I can protect these finds from incursion into my space from neighbors that I haven't met yet. But let's start with the megastructure. Now, I mentioned that if I repair this, it will be the equivalent of what is called the Dyson Sphere, which is another megastructure built around stars. The Dyson Sphere is an old science fiction concept. Basically, what if you could build a giant solar power plant around a star and collect the star's entire output as usable energy? That's what a Dyson Sphere does. And they added the matter decompressor for black holes to fulfill essentially the same function, but for minerals. The reason I was excited is that when you find one that is ruined, you might think, oh, well, that's bad. Well, actually, you can repair it for a single cost. Normally, these wonders, both the matter decompressor and the Dyson Sphere, have to be built in stages. They're very costly. It's worth it once you're done, but when you find one that you can just repair, you get the benefits sooner. And we've already found one. Now, we're not going to be able to repair it anytime soon. We need to build up a lot in order to do so. 20,000 alloys, to be precise, and we need the mega engineering technology. So it's going to be a while before we can do that. Mega engineering is nowhere close to where we currently are. But that's very exciting, because again, we won't have to spend as much to get that amazing minerals benefit. Now, with regard to the enigmatic fortress, this is a Leviathan class kind of anomaly. And these spawn in multiple places in the galaxy, but there's only one enigmatic fortress. And the fact that the enigmatic fortress is also in this locked down area, this is a very interesting quest chain that I've gotten in a number of my playthroughs, a surprising number, honestly, of my playthroughs on the channel. And it's not to say that it's rare, but the fortress doesn't always spawn in your territory. So generally speaking, if you want to get the fortress every game, you better be conquering the entire galaxy. And you're not always playing to conquer the entire galaxy. But as I mentioned, the thing about the enigmatic fortress is that if you play your cards right while going through its chain, and very similar, by the way, to the ruined matter decompressor, it's going to be a while before we can do this. But if you play your cards right, then you get some very nice bonuses in the form of technology that can help you in the end game that you would otherwise have to literally fight a fallen empire to obtain. So really exciting stuff. Like I am obviously beside myself. So I want to go ahead and build a starbase in Procyon, and that minerals boost will be quite welcome. We're doing all right economy-wise for now. Let's go up to speed 2 and let the game continue. We are over, so we're not perfect on our economy. We are over on our empire sprawl. There, Terra Nova is done. Tell you what, let's go ahead and buy a little extra food so that we can make this decision guilt-free. Remember that Terra Nova does have high gravity, so buildings are going to be more expensive, districts are going to be more expensive as well, and there's going to be lower habitability, which reduces happiness and therefore productivity. We do, however, get to build 2 additional districts on the planet over the normal 18 that we would get to build, which is pretty cool. So we're going to encourage planetary growth the same way we have on our other worlds. That's still going. There are our prosperous unification bonuses, by the way. Those of you who've been reading the comment section carefully will understand why I pointed that out. And we also discovered this archaeological site in the last episode, and I want to start looking at that relatively soon. Now, what's the name of our new science ship? The Aldrin. That's right, the Aldrin. So that's a worthy successor to the, was it the Azifa? I've already forgotten the name. Shame on me. I've already forgotten the name of the first science ship. But we had the Asimov. We've lost some initial scientists already. So we have 2 level 1 scientists again, unfortunately. Robert Stiles in the Asimov. And then we have, let's take a closer look at the Asimov. We haven't really paid close attention to our ship details. And again, I want to focus as much as is reasonable on some of the narrative details in the early game. And then we have Luc Pelletier, and he is surveying Sehutum over here, just to make sure that we can, in fact, lock down this territory. So it's going to be a minute before these anomalies you're seeing here as well are serviceable. But once these scientists have leveled up, we'll have them take a look around. But we are going to try to lock down this territory as fast as we can. We're not going to be able to do anything here until we're strong enough to take on the enigmatic fortress with our fleet, and that's a long time from now. But there are a lot of other things that we can do. We did just unlock a new tradition. So we finished the expansion tradition tree and got the technological ascendancy ascension perk. I'm going to go ahead and go for discovery so that anomaly research speed is increased by 20% just by adopting this. This will help with science. I might consider going for diplomacy as my second tradition tree in a game where I knew my neighbors already, but I haven't met my neighbors yet. Haven't even seen hints. Well, there's been one hint. Potentially we have enemies out here, because this is where the mothership was. And apparently the mothership was destroyed. So that's going to be problematic. Oh, speaking of possible contact, what do we have here? Okay, it looks like... Wow, that couldn't have been better timed. We have encountered some form of alien vessels in the Atausneria system, right here, on the border of the space that we are currently exploring and right where we were expecting potentially to meet neighbors. These strange objects have been flagged as gamma aliens until we can learn more about them. So this gives us a special project to investigate the gamma aliens. We have a contact report. The unified Solar Republic has finally encountered fellow wanderers among the stars. Despite their intentions being unknown and potentially even hostile, the atmosphere on Earth following the report from our contact fleet can be best described as rapturous. So they're excited because we're xenophiles. Now, you'll notice that I selected this icon. What I was looking at is this. When you first encounter, and this is a good tip for new players because it is anxiety-inducing. You know, when you're meeting your first neighbors, like, are they going to be friendly? Are you going to be able to survive an initial attack from a stronger neighbor? Stuff like that, especially if you meet them within your first 20 years. When you have that first encounter, while the game is even still paused, you select the ship if you can still see it. And you can zoom in on it as well to take a look at it. What do we have here? Ooh, they're lithoids. They're lithoids, and they're nearby. But then if you look at the type of ship that it is, if it's an alien vessel, you know it's an alien empire. If you see the science icon, rather, not alien vessel, but if you see the science ship icon, because that's what that is. It's the same as our science ships over here. So this is an alien science ship taking a look around. And we now have a project to investigate them, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing this. By researching this, this will take up the research task of Beatrice Emerson. So unfortunately, planetary unification is on hold. That's okay. That's one heck of a way to kick off this episode. By the way, please continue to ask questions in the comment sections if you're in the comments section if you're new to Stellaris and would like some feedback as far as your play. I have a few questions I haven't responded to yet. Or if you're curious about anything that I explain in the series. There are a few more things I'll talk about in this video, but right now I want to figure out what's going on with our new neighbors. All right, let's get those mining stations built. What are you doing up here? All right, those mining stations are already being built. And we have this archaeological site. The first fleet looks like is hanging out in Seoul. And yes, that's right. We have the former cult flagship. And that's flying in to meet our ships. I'm going to be very, very curious what their response to us is. We will have some options soon to fix our Empire sprawl. The main ways that you can do that in the current version of the game are through these buildings, administrative offices, which we can just build a second set of administrative offices, and for the time being, that will fix the overage that we currently have that's making our technology slightly more expensive.
Construction completed.
So we'll do that. I also want to bring ESOM into our territory so that we can think about maybe where do we build a station nearby. I did mention as well that I'm exploring this cluster for the same reason. I want to know exactly where to put my next starbases. I might have just had a very good idea about where I'm putting one of them. If I can't expand much farther than Korea, this might be where I put one. If there's already an empire in this cluster, because this is a large cluster, there's not a hyperlane. This is what you want to look for when you have links between clusters. You want to have multiple stars, at least one that is just kind of a one-way travel point where there's no branching hyperlanes apart from one side and another side. That way you can put a starbase there, and anyone that is trying to get into your territory has to go through that system. There's no way around it. And you know where they're coming from, and you know where they're going to. Always. Anyone traveling through that system. This is obviously a little bit different. Okay. We are receiving transmission from the Rak-Rak High Kingdom. Really? The Rak-Rak High Kingdom? They appear to have successfully translated our language. So, because they beat us to the punch, we are not going to get a nice influence boost from deciphering their communications, which makes me sad. But just like I predicted, they are up here. They appear to have successfully translated our language. Diplomatic channels are now open, and all hostilities between us have ceased for the moment. Interesting. Okay. They are an enlightened monarchy, hegemonic imperialists. They're authoritarian, militarist, and materialist. We're none of those things. Matter of fact, we're egalitarian, which is the opposite. We're pacifist, as opposed to militarist. And we're xenophile, which is not related to materialist. The opposite of materialist is spiritualist. So, they're not exactly ethically in line with us. I speak on behalf of the Rak-Rak High Kingdom, and I have been authorized to bring you greetings, as long as you stay out of our internal affairs and treat our great leader High King Ruthven I with reverence. I see no reason for our diplomatic relations to sour. So we could respond in a number of ways, and these icons are indicated that these are the responses that correspond to our ethics, and we have different choices. The reason you would choose a different response, I mean, yes, you can like the sound of one or the other, but empires will respond better. This is your first impression. This is the first thing you say to them. So if you say something that matches their ethics, based on your ethics, that's your way of signaling, hey, we believe the same things. And there's a little bit of a synergy there, and you get an opinion boost from it. We don't have that choice. So just from a role-playing perspective, we can learn much from each other. Rak-Raks, we greet you as equals, or our citizens greet you in peace. Let's say we could learn much from each other. Well, hang on. Wait. No. There is one thing that we can do. Let's perhaps not offer them demonstrations of, we have two ethics that oppose theirs. So which is the response that contains an ethic that doesn't oppose theirs? Wait a minute. Do we have two that oppose theirs? We do. There's authoritarian and there's militarist. So we need to try to avoid the option that has both egalitarian and pacifist in it. So this is the one we need to not say. Either of these is fine. So we could learn much from each other. There we go. And they're exactly where we thought they were. So I could either stick with this cluster that I already have. I kind of want that trade value, but I don't want to. I like that there's just one jump point to Korea. You see what I'm saying? So I might just stick with that and expand in this direction. Now, one thing I'm going to go ahead and do. They're wary of us. They have we have a casus belli on them because of ideology. But I'm going to go ahead and send an envoy. We have 2 envoys. And I'm going to send one to improve relations. Now, I could also send another to improve relations. I'm just going to send the first for now. This is a new feature in Federations. This will hopefully offset the problem of, potentially having aggression early on. Another thing that I want to do is take a look at our diplomatic stance. We're currently expansionist, which will improve border friction. That basically the extent to which we annoy other empires by pushing up against them. It also reduces outpost build cost and improves colony development speed. Now, I hate that the colony development speed is going to be reduced from this, but that's just the establishment of new colonies. Once the planets are actually in place, as all 4 of my colonies currently are, we're fine. So I could go ahead and say cooperative, which would take our border friction 50% in the opposite direction. So that 100% penalty would be removed, and we would get a 50% reduction on the amount we annoy them by bumping up against them. And then improved relations also gives an additional 50%. Now notice also that sending an envoy to harm relations would actually cost me influence per month under the cooperative diplomatic stance. But we are looking just to be nice and not tick them off. They are superior to us in their fleet power and in their technology level. They are equivalent to us in their economic level, and they are wary of us for these reasons. So they mainly just don't like the fact that we're egalitarian. And they might be... It's interesting that the new contact was -20. That mainly has to do with the ethics that we expressed, and they're not being able to relate to us. So that's why we wanted to avoid expressing 2 ethics that rub them the wrong way. Okay, so this construction ship is here. Why don't I go ahead and bring you down to Isam? We definitely do need to make some starbase decisions. Repeated scans of Sahutum 3's surface give inconsistent sensor readings, almost as if the planet itself is in a constant state of upheaval. Leave be for now. I will go ahead and give the order to upgrade the Korea starbase. That's happening. We don't have that choice. I don't have the ability to upgrade my current starbase in Sol because we don't have that technology in place yet. Looks like the stations in Procyon are almost done.
Construction completed.
Now we're lucky because one of the reasons that the game is saying that we are only... I mean, they could be overwhelmingly powerful compared to us, but the reason they're only superior in their fleet power is, frankly, that we got that additional ship from defeating the cultists this early. So let's take another look at the ship designer. I currently have a missile and an interceptor class corvette. I'm going to design, a 3rd class of ship. I normally do picket destroyers, but since we don't have destroyers yet, we might not for a while. Let's go ahead and we're going to put Sentinel point defense, slightly different varieties of point defense. One energy-based, one kinetic-based. And they do different amounts of damage. Similar accuracy. So this is actually not quite as good on tracking. Maybe I'll go with the flak battery instead. I've never noticed that difference in the... Just had to make a note of something real quick. I've never noticed that difference in the tracking of those two. We can talk about that in the comments. This is one thing that I'm maybe has been a bit of a blind spot for me. Like, what exactly is the benefit of one over the other? So these both do a certain... Well, they don't do a ton of armor damage, so they're not good to actually fight against ships and damage armor. One is an energy-based weapon, so perhaps it's best at defending against energy-based weaponry. So you need, if you really want to defend against different types of attack, you would have both types of point defense, is what I would think. So what we have to do is maybe look at the ships that we can detect, which we can't detect any right now, and design our ships accordingly in order to be able to fight against the Rak-Rak High Kingdom if they decide that they wanted to attack us. And then let's put a laser there, and then a mass driver on the very front. Armor in the middle. Oh, nope. There we go. Okay. And this is going to be the... Yeah. Go with Firecrest. Firecrest class point defense corvette. And let me also make sure, we don't have combat computers yet, so I can't give it a specific type of role. But with that, and did I give the order for it to auto-upgrade? Yes, I did. Let's say that we want the Firecrest to also be in this fleet. That That's about as many as we can build within the command limit of this fleet. Command limit is a number that determines the number of ships, and larger ships have higher command limit. So this battleship, I mean, if you look at this, it's pretty clear. The battleship takes up 4 command limit, because these are 1 command limit apiece, corvettes, but our command limit is at 14 of 20. So there's an example right there. But we do have enough to do a little bit more. So I will give the order to build those Firecrest class corvettes, and that way, if we do get into a scrape with them, we don't have to worry as much about being underpowered. Now, again, we can't clear these blockers yet, but we do have some unemployment on Avalon. Let's take a look at where we need help the most. This looks like it's going to be a mining world. So I can start building something that'll help with our minerals. We might need some minerals too if we end up not doing well against the Rak-Rak Kingdom. Thankfully, their attitude towards us is improving, and that new contact, one thing I didn't point out earlier, notice that the new contact is improving by 2 yearly. So as each year goes by, that 20% penalty, or that 20-point penalty, not a percent penalty, it's a point penalty, will decrease. Sorry, now that we've encountered an alien empire, I'm not on my heels, but I'm pausing and I'm being cautious, because the decisions that we make right now are very important, especially on Commodore difficulty, or higher for that matter. All right, this science ship is now level 2. I might create a 3rd science ship to continue exploring past here and bring him in to check out this archaeological site. Anomaly-wise, how we doing? Yeah, we found a number of them. We can see most of them on the map. We haven't discovered anything about our precursors yet, interestingly enough. All right, the Eastham Starbase is being built right now, so I can go ahead. Hadar.
System survey concluded.
Yeah, I'm going to add Osrof. For those of you wondering what these borders are, because I did have one person ask me about this, I'll go ahead and clarify. Hopefully they're listening at this exact moment in the episode, because this is towards the end and at a random point. But there was a question about, well, what are these secondary lines here? This is our sector. Sectors are currently determined by distance from the core planet, and the home planet, the capital of the Sol sector, is Earth. And everything within 4 jumps will be in the Sol sector. There is still currently not a way to nudge planets into other sectors currently, so it's just based purely on where you set the capital of the district. But, so you have to make some decisions carefully with that in mind. Interesting. Trouble in Paradise. Local political drama on Terra Nova has resulted in increased support among a small group of rebels opposed to our underlying ethics. Their increased support have enabled them to gain more power in the region and vote for their own causes with limited success. So this is a narrative choice. The reason these pop up is the game is kind of giving you the option to say, and I was thinking about this out of the series the other day, like, if I got a pop-up like this, how would I characterize it? And this really what this is, again, is a narrative choice. You can say, I want some pops to show up that care about something else, that are different from what we are. Now, we just encountered a hostile alien, or potentially hostile alien force nearby. So we could say, we stand divided, and 3 pops on Terra Nova will convert 1 step closer to militarism. Or we could suppress the opposition, and only 1 pop will convert, but then we get the suppressed opposition on Terra Nova, which reduces happiness on one of our new colonies. So for more than one reason, role-playing and narrative, just interesting story, and not wanting that penalty, I'm going to say we stand divided. I think it makes sense to choose this right now. Given that we just encountered these guys, there's going to be some people in the Solar Republic that want to get ready to fight. They're human, after all. These are things we tend to disagree on. Okay, so we now have a new option on Atlantis, and I'm pretty sure what I'm going to build, but I'm just going to double-check my economy to make sure first. So the things that I would mainly decide between at this point are more consumer goods or alloy production factories, the alloy foundries, but we also can now build the administrative offices. Now, these add 2 bureaucrat jobs, okay? And they turn consumer goods, so we're going to consume this resource, into administrative capacity. And then the job base upkeep is 2. So what that means is that, and by the way, whenever it says job-based upkeep, that's for both of the jobs. Okay? So if both of the bureaucrat jobs are filled, the maximum this administrative office will take from my consumer goods is just 2, but we'll maybe fix our empire sprawl. So heck yeah, that's going to be done in about a year. Let's go ahead and build that. We also have this unemployment, but what's going to happen is that when this bureaucrat job becomes available, which is a higher strata of job, this worker or one of the workers, interesting, we've got a lot of good narrative events popping up. This worker will move up into a higher strata, or one of the other workers will, and this worker will move into an existing worker job. Reports from our colony in Avalon claims that there have been an increase in feral behavior. Apparently, parts of the population has expressed hitherto unprecedented levels of lust and aggression, and no one knows why. So the loud minority modifier has been added to Avalon, which increases crime. Again, we have a governor that helps reduce crime, so that's going to help. Reduces happiness, but increases pop growth speed by 125%. Carry on.
System survey concluded.
All right, so the Korea starbase has been built. Let's go ahead and think about what we build here. I want to go ahead and give it some defenses, a gun battery and a missile battery. And we're going to go purely in terms of defense. So these 3 options at the bottom are some defensive buildings that you can add that give the starbase some combat modifiers. The target uplink computer means that all ships, friendly ships in the star system, have 50% improved weapons range. Communications jammer is that sublight speed of enemy ships is reduced by a 5th, and combat disengagement chance is reduced by a 5th. So in other words, it makes it harder for ships to leave the fight. That's what that means. And then shield hit points is reduced by 20% if we go with the disruption field generator. Now, I don't know if these guys are relying on shields, but I like the speed reduction and the combat disengagement chance the most. We're going to go with communications jammer. Plus, it's cheaper than the uplink computer and the disruption field generator, which I kind of like at the moment, all things considered. And I will also assign this to the Korea station. One downside of what I'm doing is that on the Seoul station, we have crew quarters, which reduces docked ship upkeep, as you can see there, by 25%, which is that energy situation that I was showing you a few episodes back. So by setting their starbase, their home starbase, to a base that doesn't have that building, unfortunately, we will have less of an energy income almost immediately.
Completed.
But that's okay. So you're going to see it go down at the end of the month here. Oh, it actually went up, just on a kind of growth and maybe some new things that we're building. All right, so Eastham has been built. Violence is on the rise. We're also 28 minutes into this episode, so let me pause for this moment. The feral behavior on Avalon shows no signs of stopping anytime soon. In fact, it has risen since the last report. Promiscuous and violent acts happen all the time, and a large part of the population seems to be affected. This is getting out of hand. So now there's a rowdy bunch modifier, which improves, or where crime is now plus 25. Again, crime is still minus 25 thanks to our governor, so that's not necessarily a problem. Pop growth speed is at 200%. So what that means is that pop growth speed has tripled, because it's increased not only by one entire 100%, but another. And then happiness, minus 25%. All right, so I'm going to stop this episode here, because we've just encountered our first neighbors. And again, I want to continue to take things slowly. And it seems like we might have some additional resources that are worth exploiting in this system, which is great because they can't access this. This is ours. And we've already built a starbase to start defending here. We also do have the option of building some Pembroke-class defense platforms. We'll wait to spend those alloys until this stuff is built. What I hope is that we actually don't have a bad relationship with them, but they are imperialists. So, who knows? If they try to subjugate us, the main way that we can try to avoid that is by growing, kind of asserting our strength and saying, look, we've got a big fleet, we've got a lot of planets, we have a strong economy, we stand on our own, don't you start looking at us as inferior. That's kind of going to be the plan. And then we're going to improve relations with them as much as possible, because essentially we've just met our Klingons. That's what's happened here. If you didn't see it that way before, that's what's going on. We've got that kind of aggressive empire relatively close by that we want to make sure we have a good relationship with as opposed to a contentious one. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to follow along. New episodes are coming out every day at 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Comments are always welcome. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.